So my parents are from Mexico, from Michoacan. So yeah, Michoacan's like, I don't know, man, southwest Mexico. You know, it's on the coast. And over there, there's nothing if you don't have land. And so if you don't have land, you don't have money. America's always a good thing to, everybody at that time was like, late 70s, early 80s. So my parents came over here. And so I'm like first generation Mexican American. Like I'm the first one in my family born here. My older sister, she's my half sister, but she was born in Mexico. And so yeah, I was like the first one in my family. Yeah. My dad does.
Where did he learn it?
I think just working. He worked with a lot of Americans in his field of work. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he worked in a tree farm, but
So what's his line of work?
Well, he worked at a nursery, but they did bigger trees like maples and kind of stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so it was like heavier, like more manly work. It wasn't like the little pot nurseries, I mean, my parents were good people, man. You know what I'm saying? Like my parents weren't like drug dealers. They were never like anything like that. My dad was an alcoholic. He smoked a little pot. My mom was like a pill addict, but that was because of her disease. But
yeah,
for the most part, they were good people. I remember like before my mom got really sick, she was involved in the church a lot. She even forced my dad to dress up as Santa Claus one time for his church event, stuff like that. So they passed on some good stuff to me. Just take care of a family more than anything. Hard work, of course, man. Like. Man, I always I give props to my mom and my dad for what they did, because my mom I come from a mom who she didn't know how to read or write, you know what I'm saying? Like my mom, she signed her name she learned it eventually how to write her name, but she really didn't know what she was spelling out, you know what I mean? And like my grandpa before her, and he was a big influence on my life because he was a really hard worker. He would sign documents with an X. You know what I'm saying? With just an X. And I was like, okay. Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Here we are in 21st century, man. In the 20th century, and he's still signing with an X. And so my mom, even though she never, learned how to read or write, didn't do any of that stuff, she somehow managed to become, a supervisor at her work and, got, a level of, respect, I remember the Spirit, or was it Fisher Farms nursery she worked for. They had these pamphlets that they would send out to people, and they'd have all the prices and everything for the plants that they would sell.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, they would always have their staff or their most important staff. Not every employee, but supervisors and the managers and people who worked in the office. My mom was in it as a supervisor. Her picture was right there, man. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, that's cool, man. My parents, they were cool people, But I also had my street role models, you know what I'm saying? I had these guys who I would look up to who would be like, hey Tony, man, go ride your bike down the street and see if there's any cops over there. I'm gonna give you $5. Or here's $10, go to the store, give me this, give me that, and on your way back check, see if there's any you know what I'm saying? I would make $5 here, $5 there, just riding my bike around the neighborhood.
So those people, they were gang members.
They were gang members. They would sell drugs. They would sell drugs. They they had their girls. They would prostitute out, but I was the guy. And I didn't think I was doing anything bad. Really, I was helping him do his dirty work. But to me, I was like, oh, this guy's just giving me $5 to go to the store and get him a Coke. All right, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna have $4 in my pocket, and all I had to do was ride my bike a couple blocks. Oh yeah, no problem. Oh, ESL. I was thrown into ESL just because my last name and stuff, and because they were like, oh, this guy is Hispanic, and so you're in class and time for reading or whatever, and they would take you ESL classes, and then ESL they just pull you out. They would literally pull you out, and it's embarrassing. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, you're not one of us, and then they would just take you, and then they didn't have actual rooms, so they would. I don't remember if you remember W. Henry, I'm sure you do. They had the conference areas in the middle. So you're on a display, man, learning all and it was kind of they're teaching you like the basic of the basic. You know what I mean? They're not even teaching you like advanced stuff. They're not teaching you to comprehend reading. They're just teaching you how to read. You know what I mean? And so it was kind of messed up. But I eventually scored out of it and tested out of it.
And how long were you in that?
I was in there for I think until I got into chapter 1 reading, which I think was in 3rd grade or something like that, man. They eventually, yeah.
So from kindergarten all the way to 3rd grade, you were in ESL?
ESL. Based on my last name solely. Because honestly, man, I was reading the same books other people was reading. I was doing everything the same thing as that, and they finally got me into chapter 1 reading, and it was like, oh, okay, this kid's actually kind of smart. You know, they would test me for tag and all that stuff then eventually. But it was really weird, you know. But that was another thing was tag, man. My parents didn't understand what it was. So my parents, when I brought them the paperwork for tag, because they have to get consent in order to test you for tag, my parents were like, what did you do wrong at school? Why do they want to test you? Do they think you're some kind of retard or something? You know, so I was like, I don't know, they just want to test me. So my parents actually took it, they pushed it away. They didn't sign it originally the first time. You know, because they didn't understand it. And nobody was there to really explain it to them, you know. They came in English, and they would give them to me, you know. They would just be like, take it to your dad. And so then it's my dad didn't know how to read English, my mom didn't know how to read English. My older sister, she was already busy doing her own thing. She didn't want to do that for my parents, you know. Read this 4 or 5 page thing.
So how long were you kept out of tag?
Oh, I was kept out of tag till about 4th grade, man. Reading. I don't know if it was just a teacher's honest mistake or I don't know what it was, but they did our testing and we were supposed to split up in different groups for our reading, and they put me in the Mexican group. And I'm there for a week and a half just reading all this stuff, and I'm just breezing through this is easy. What are you doing? And then it finally it dawned on the teacher, maybe I made a mistake. Next thing you know, she's like, boom, you're in the highest, you know, reading group that we have now. And then it was then my Mexican friends are like, what, you're too cool to hang out with us? And it's nah, man, I'm just trying to, you know, this is what they want me to do, you know. And it's you know, you go to reading time, you know, and you go split off wherever you want and go be able to read. And I go hang out with my white friend kids. Why? Because they're reading the same book as me. Not because I'm, you know what I mean? Not because I don't want to hang out with my Mexican friends. They're reading the same book. High school was the best. I think the worst was middle school, you know. The worst was middle school because it was I was just angry, even angrier than I was in high school. That was the sickest my mom was in middle school. Mm-hmm. I was broke. I was living in a crappy home at the time because my mom was always in the hospital and I had no supervision. And so I just hated life, man. And so, you know, I gave my teachers the hardest time in middle school, man. You know what I'm saying? But I think in middle school I dealt with the teachers who were the most I wouldn't say they were anti-Mexican, but I think they were just fed up with the Mexican culture, you know what I mean? I was just fed up with that. I remember a specific teacher that I remember thinking, oh man, she hates Mexicans. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what it was, but they segregated us, man. You know what I mean? In middle school. They would all the Hispanic kids would go to, for example, we had English class. All the Hispanic kids would go to Degollados class. Since I was advanced, they would throw me in with the white kids, you know? But, yeah, they would keep, the Hispanic kids, on a different part of the hall and in particular rooms, and then they would have, just the regular kids over here. And I remember, I would be, one of, only, 3 or 4 Hispanic kids in a room of 25, 30 kids. It's because, it's one of those things, man. Like I said, I understood the subject matter, you know. I took advanced placement classes. You know, I took AP English, AP History, U.S. History. I was always in advanced classes, man. From the get-go, from freshman year on, you know. For AP English, I think I scored a 4 on one of the exams, and then the history I scored a 3. You know, so I mean, they were passing grades. You know what I'm saying? Man, we had the big thing, and you're having to read 20 pages on Bacon's Rebellion, and you're like, why do I care about this thing from way back in the day? And you know, and so it was you know, all that stuff, you know, part of it, I also wasn't like interested in it. You know what I mean? So I didn't pay the most attention to it.
And why weren't you interested in it?
There's no connection to it, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, there was no connection to it. Like, why do I have to learn about, these old white guys who formed this country when, I grew up with Hispanics telling me that Americans stole our land. You know what I mean? And then you go on and you research American history. You're like, oh, they did steal our land. You know what I'm saying? They did take California, New Mexico, Arizona, all that stuff from us. And so it's kind of like, it's kind of weird.
There was some maybe cultural resentment there.
Yeah, I think so. Cause there was always like, you're learning about how great. Cause like that's how schools, I feel like their history books are meant. They're like, they like show like the greatness of a country. It's like propaganda for you to believe and have national pride and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, so then you don't really learn the history. You're learning what the government wants you to learn, or whoever writes the book wants you to learn. You know what I mean? And so then, as a kid who's angry and who's like already like feeling outsider, they're not gonna believe that crap. Or at least I didn't believe a lot of it.
Right.
They're trying to over here like tell me how great the Minutemen were, and I'm like, they're killing Mexicans. Why would I be cool with that? You know what I mean? I remember I got kicked out of class for that one time because they were talking about how like, why did we see all of a sudden a drop in Mexican immigrants to the America? And I was like, are you kidding me? I straight up, I got up and teaching. I was like, because y'all were killing us, coming across the border. Who's going to want to risk their life for the money? You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that, man. I used to get in trouble for stuff like that all the time.
Did you view that as a form of discrimination?
No, I don't think it was discrimination. It was just, I was like, I was very proud to be Mexican. Here I am learning about these people when they're trying to glorify how they're protecting your country. It's like, they're killing my people, man. How's that protect? You know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those things. It's really weird. It's weird.
Clashing of cultures.
It is.
Literally.
It is. But I always liked history, man. It was cool. That was like one of my favorite subjects besides, obviously, English. For sure, man. Like, dude, I mean, like, anything that I did that was extracurricular as far as involved with school, like in high school level, I remember was very, like, stop being such a dirty Mexican. You know what I mean? It's like, dude.
But people would say that?
Oh, yeah. It was like an open joke. Like, speech and debate. The biggest thing that I did, that was the most, like, American, white thing you can do, right? Because, like, let's be honest, that in Century, at least, speech and debate team was 95% white. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah, man, my first year on the team, everything was dirty Mexican, and, like, Mexican jokes, and, like, I let it slide because I was like, I'm getting a better benefit from all this competition. I'm getting better benefit from all this. And I feel like at the end of the year, I ended up having actually the last laugh because out of all those kids, I was like one of the only 4 out of like 20 of us that, ended up, being a state finalist for a certain topic, So I got my state award and stuff, you know what I mean? So it was like, I got the last laugh because I did better than them at the end of the day. Oh, tons, man. Tons. I had friends and family. Most of them, they didn't finish high school. Mainly because they came from broken homes. They didn't have the need or the want to finish high school, and they just decided to go into work. And a lot of them, the drugs got a hold of them. There was always like. I always used to blame weed. I was like, oh, weed's the problem, right? But then it's like, I started hanging out with these guys who dropped out of high school, and it's like, man, they're like sniffing coke and, doing all kinds of other stuff, and it's like, well, maybe that's the problem. You know what I mean? Not the weed, and so like, it was just, there was always that stuff around. It's real weird because like, when I say Hispanic community, I think of people that lived in my block who grew up like I grew up, who, to me, those are Hispanic people.
People who went to W. Henry.
People who went to W. Henry, I know for a fact one girl, right? I know one girl that went to high school. I mean, they went to college and graduated. But here's the difference, man. She was really like, she didn't live the stuff that we lived. You know what I'm saying? Like I know, like she, by the time she was in middle school, her parents already owned a house. You know what I'm saying? Her parents already had a decent job. Her parents mainly spoke English to her, you know? Like if I tried to speak Spanish to her, she wouldn't understand me. You know what I mean? But she had a Hispanic name. You know what I'm saying? So she got like these benefits of being Hispanic, but like to me, it was almost like she was fake Hispanic. You know what I mean? You know, and it's like, you know, like the system worked for her, but it was because she kind of almost like denounced, or was not, I don't know if that's the word, but like she like went against her Hispanic roots and assimilated to the culture more. Yeah, nobody I know, honestly, man. Nobody that I know went to school and graduated. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool because now I see younger kids doing it. But yeah, man, my age range, like I consider like 27 to 30, 32. Nobody, bro. And the ones ahead of me, the ones like 35, 36, most of them didn't even graduate high school, bro. Yeah, for sure. Because like, the education system isn't catered to Hispanics, man. It's not, or it's not even that it's not catered to Hispanics. Is that like, I think that the big thing that schools are missing out is that they don't understand how we learn different, or that we like, you know, are different people, human beings, and all together. Though we are Americans, we're trying to be as American as we can. At the end, we're still Mexican, man, and like I feel like the most important thing to a Hispanic person is their roots, to their country, to their culture. And when you're constantly told you need to forget about that, then it's like, you know, it's kind of like it almost messes with your mind, man, and it makes you kind of want to like push away anything that's being forced on you American ways. My GPA was garbage, man. I had I graduated with like a 1.6 GPA, which is really horrible GPA. That's part of the reason why I never tried to apply for any colleges here. I thought it was just a waste of money. Nobody's gonna accept me, you know. I mean, high school was weird here for me because here I am, like this kid who was like, I like challenging myself all the time. You know what I'm saying? In school, I always challenge myself. And even though, I don't know, I would flunk classes mainly because I didn't do the work. Not because I didn't know the subject matter. It was just because I just didn't do the work because I was working. I played soccer. To me, there's more important things than to do than school, you know? Mm-hmm. I didn't have anybody at my house checking in on my homework. So I was like, you know? Nah, not at all. Like they would say they do, but they didn't. Because like, it's like when, you know, those things that say actions speak louder than words. Like my parents would tell me like, Tony, did you do your homework, or do you have homework? And it's like, they never really checked if I did homework, man. You know, they would never really like be like, okay, let's see if you did your homework, or you know. And so it's like I never did any of it. So to me, it's like they never valued it. You know what I'm saying? They didn't. It wasn't important to them, but it wasn't because I think that it wasn't because they were bad parents. It was because they just had so much more stuff going on in their life.
What did they have going on?
Well, my mom was sick. She had lupus, and I think when I was like 14, no, I'm sorry, when I was 12, 13, she was in a coma for a while, and she basically ended up losing like a lot of her ability to work and do that stuff, and all the medicine and everything, I think, kind of made her crazy a little bit. Started losing her mind, and you know, then it got to the point where I needed to help out the house, so then I was working to pay bills for the house.
At 13?
Yeah, 13, man. I would go do work with my uncle, do landscaping stuff. He'd pay me $60 every Saturday and $60 on Sunday. We'd do, you know, 4 or 5 houses each day, and it was like $120. Didn't seem like much, but the thing is, that's just $120. I don't have to ask my dad for shoes, for, you know, money, for food, for anything. And it was like helping him. Mm-hmm. And then once I turned 16, I got a job at Dairy Queen, and you know, that's when, you know, it really hit the fan, where like I'm paying for my mom's prescriptions, I'm paying for electricity bill, I'm paying for, you know, this or that. That's the one thing I think that was lacking in all my schooling. Like the only guy I remember ever being like really invested in Hispanic culture, Hispanic education was a guy. His name was Jim Perillo. I don't think he was even Mexican. I think he was Italian, bro. But he spoke Spanish like you don't even know, man. And dude, that guy was, you know, my family like adopted him. He was in my aunt's wedding.
Teacher or?
He was like an ESL aide or something like that. I don't know exactly what he did. And but that guy was like, I could see that guy was in there for more than just a paycheck. You know what I mean? And like that guy would make sure, like, he was really good about, like, especially me and my little brother, getting us enrolled in any type of opportunity or project or something. Like they would do like these free vineyards or whatever the heck. They would do eyeglasses and for free and stuff, and he would take us there.
Oh, yeah.
He would make sure that we were always on the list, you know, to get our eyes checked. He would make sure that we were on the list for like the Christmas giveaways, you know, for those poorer families. He would make sure he was always really invested in our family, man. And like I said, he was even in my aunt's wedding. You know, we accepted him that much into our family. But that was the only guy I remember ever in my whole entirety of high school, man. Or I mean school, from kindergarten to 12th grade to that. Like, I feel like, okay, American kids, man, they got this opportunity to explore themselves, to be, you know, it's like, if you're a American kid, you can be an artist. You could be this, you can be that, you know. Nobody's going to look at you funny for, you know, exploring yourself. But as Hispanic, you're like, well, you know, that's not right. That's not what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird, especially here. And like, I mean, just white privilege to me is like that, and white privilege to me is like organizations and things like police and all that not looking at you funny. You know, to me that's white privilege. And like, there's specific laws I feel like that are geared towards the repression of Hispanics and minorities in general, you know, like Measure 11. That's a huge one. You know, since Measure 11 has been in place, more Hispanics and black kids are in jail and are being taken a Measure 11 charge than white kids and Asian kids. You know what I'm saying? Because Asian kids, like, they're not looked at like a threat to society. You know what I mean? They're people, like, they're disciplined, they're educated, they're good people. They're not looked at as threats. So, and white kids, you know, instead of getting that assault 1, they get the assault 3. The assault 3 all of a sudden is no longer a Measure 11, so then he doesn't have to do them 5 years. You know, but if I get in a fight in Washington County at the age of 17 and I bust some kid's head in and I knock him out, I'm getting 5 years in prison, you know, in federal prison, or not, state prison, you know, because of the way that the law is. Oh, for sure, man. There's all the time, you know, like police, they try to be cool with you, but they're not, you know. They would come around, and anytime you'd hang out with more than 5 Mexican kids, they were like, where are you guys going? What are you guys doing? You know, what are you guys about? You know, who's in the gang? Who's not in the gang? You know, they were profiling you all the time. I remember, like, they would harass us, like, at the park. I don't know if you remember Walnut Street Park. We call it Azteca Park because the apartments across the street are called the Azteca Apartments. And so the sign says the park's open from dusk till dawn, right? So they're saying dawn, I guess, was 9 o'clock. I don't know, right? So, I mean, to me, dawn is when the sun's down, right? There's no more sun. So we're out there. It's summertime, man. The sun is out. At 9 o'clock, it's still out. 9:30, 9:45, the sun's still out. We'd be playing basketball. We'd play soccer, playing in the park. Cops would make rounds, man, and just kick everybody out. And it's like, dude, it's still light out. What are you kicking us out for? And, I mean, I know what it was. They didn't want to have mass amounts of Hispanics when it was dark time because they thought something was going to happen, you know what I mean? Gang members, gang this or that, you know what I mean? It was crazy, man. I remember summer school, they had the cop car. They brought it in. And, like, the highlight of that day was when the guy put me in cuffs and put me in the back. Yeah, Officer Hess.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, he
Put you in his car?
yeah, just cause like I was trying to be cool or something, and I was just like, arrest me right now, and like next thing you know, he's got handcuffs on me. He's throwing me in the back of his wagon, and it's like, what? This is crazy. And everybody's like cheering me on. Yeah, Tony got arrested. It was really weird, man. Really weird situation. Well, like we always had like to be formal during competition. So, but you know, I ultimately like was, you know, I had to accommodate to their needs, which was wearing, you know, the tie and the stupid shirt with the shirt tucked in and all that.
And could you afford all that stuff?
Not really. You know, like I'm not really like for the first 3/4 of the year, for the first year competition, I never wore a tie, and it was always like I always kind of felt like a little out of place because I would see these kids, man, they were wearing suits, you know, like suits, like jacket, blazer, everything, you know, and here's me, it was like I'm going to Mervyn's and buying, you know, just off the rack shirt, doesn't even fit me right, you know what I mean? And like, you know, it's like I can't afford dry cleaning, so my thing is like semi-pressed, while these kids is like pressed and, you know, pleated and all that goodness, you know. And me, I'm just like, this is what I got off the rack, you know.
Do you feel like that was a psychological barrier that you had to jump over?
Oh, for sure. I remember specifically one time there was going to be a big fight between Pointer and JB Thomas. And they got us all in the principal's office, and I remember the cop looked at me directly at me, man. And I mean, I had never gotten in trouble with the law. He looked directly at me, and the principal looked directly at me. Tony, we know you're the leader of this little gang. We know that you knew all this stuff. Secretly, I did know all this stuff, but I wasn't gonna tell them that I did. But thing is, like, they never like, I never got the opportunity to be a leader to more than just Mexicans. You know what I'm saying? I was never allowed to be a leader to like, for example, I never felt like I was given a chance to be a leader at Century High School. I was just somebody who had charisma, who had, you know, friends who had this and that, but I was never given the opportunity because some other kid wanted it for his, you know, college resume. You know, it was more important for him to be the captain of the speech and debate team than me, or, you know, something like that.
They had some more assets than you.
Exactly. And so they had more reason to have it, and part of me, I didn't see the importance of it because my culture didn't value education as much, I guess. But I think that's changing. Nah, man. They would send you home with the PTA, like Hispanic PTA meeting, and they'd send you home with a paper. And the attendance was horrible. Nobody would go to it because it just, I mean, it was dumb because they would schedule the appointments, the meetings at 5:30. Well, man, half these people are barely getting home at 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
They don't got time. And then when you want them to show up stinky like the farm, for sure, yeah, because you don't ever get like that formal education of Spanish. You know what I mean? You have to take Spanish classes, and then in order to learn how to read and write, and in order how to do all that stuff, you know, learn how to use accents, learn how to use, you know, this or that punctuation marks correctly. And it's like, it's kind of messed up because here I am Mexican, I go into Spanish class, and then I'm there with my American friends, and they're like, yo, I thought you was Mexican, man. Why? You know what I mean? And so then it's almost like they hold you to a higher level of the Spanish ability to, you know, absorb this information. But it's like, well, I never got formal training like you guys, so we're in the same boat. But I'm still held to another level because I can speak it. But just speaking is completely different than reading and writing. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it was really hard. Like, especially when I went to Mexico, I had a hard time actually doing like my classwork, and because I was like, I wasn't really good at like punctuation and all that stuff, man. Do I always speak Spanish to Latinos? Yes and no. Like, I try to speak as much as I can to them, but I feel like a lot of them, they'd like, hey man, you talk to me. I'm like, I'm in America, you know, speak to me in English. A lot of them want to practice English with you, especially since they know like I speak better English. I'm like, let's practice some English. But like, for example, right now I got 2 Hispanic workers at my job, you know, and we speak Spanish probably like 80% of the time.
Do you speak better English or Spanish?
Oh, English.
Absolutely.
English for sure. You know, Spanish is like you lose it when you're not so immersed in it.
It's your second language.
I would say so. It was the first one that I learned, but it's now English is so dominant. You know, my dad speaks English, so I speak English to him sometimes. It's really funny though, cause like passive conversation English, and then it's like important conversation Spanish. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know if it's like me in my mind being like I need you to understand this, or if it's just like I don't know. Something like just clicks in my mind where I'm like, I gotta speak Spanish right now.